Hello, everyone. My name is Lucy Dhegrae, and I'm the founder and director of Resonant Bodies Festival. I'm here with Sam Torres. Sam,
Greetings.
we're doing part two of Recording for Singers today, and we're going to focus on Reaper, which is a DAW, and DAW stands for,
Digital audio workstation.
thank you, um, which is just a program that you can record into. So we're going to walk through everything that is setting up all the equipment, working in Reaper. Hello, people who just came in. Hi. And ask your questions in the chat for sure. And I have some things I've already recorded, click tracks, da da da. We'll talk about all of that. Yeah. And I'll be screen sharing on one screen, and then you'll be able to see me on this one so you can see what I'm doing if I'm recording. Okay. Any burning questions right now before we get started, or any topics that anyone is hoping that we will cover today before we go? You can just type them in the chat. Yes. Oh, that's right. Change on the chat when you, at the bottom above where you type, it says all panelists. And if you click on that, you can change it to all panelists and all attendees. So anything that you put in the chat, try to make it all panelists and attendees. And I'm sorry that I keep popping my peas into the microphone.
You need one of those. There you go.
Panelists. It doesn't really make it better though, panelists. Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Without further ado, Sam, where should we begin?
Well, the first step in recording is going to be setting up your recording gear. So that seems like a good place to start.
Yeah. Am I going to do the thing where I go on my phone, or are you going to do the thing where you go on your phone?
I was just going to show it on here.
Okay, great.
Putting the pieces together.
Great.
So we talked about in session one what those pieces are, but I'll just talk through them. So this doesn't really apply if you have a handheld portable recorder that you're using, because that's kind of all set up already. This is more if you have different pieces of equipment like a microphone and an audio interface that you are putting together. So the first step is screwing the microphone onto the stand. And this is a piece of a stand.
Nice.
So I'm just using my little instrument microphone here. I screw the clip on, and then the clip holds the mic. The next thing I would probably do is attach my pop filter to the mic stand. So most pop filters just clip on. Let's see if I can do this without dropping things.
Oh, yours clips on? Wow.
Well, it screws on, actually. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
It screws on like that.
Yeah. I'm going to show you my horrible, I hate this crappy one.
Yeah, mine is very similar.
I'm going to show you all why this one is so bad. And why this kind of mic stand, which I really bought for podcasting also, is so bad. So that's as good as the angle gets on the pop filter right there. And the annoying thing is that it's like not flat. Like getting it to be flat or like centered is stupid. It's like the microphone is way over here. Anyway, it's not adjustable and it is annoying. All right.
Well, anyway, if you are able to adjust yours, you'll have your mic on your stand like so, and the pop filter a couple inches away. And the reason for that is that if you put it right up against it, it won't actually block the P's so well, which is what the purpose of a pop filter is. Oh, I just on my screen.
You. I figured you would be the important thing.
Great. So you'll set it up like so. It's clipped on, and set it up here, and then you'll be about that far away from it when you're singing. And And that's the physical stand, mic stand part. I'm going, ooh, sorry about that. I'm going to just take the mic out so I'm not juggling so many things. And once your microphone and stand are all ready to go, you will sort through your pile of stuff and find your XLR cable, which to review is the one that looks like this on either side. So it's got the 3 prongs and 3 holes. And it has this little locking mechanism there so your cable doesn't slip out of the microphone. And on one side, you'll match, this only works one way, so you'll fit whichever side goes into the microphone and get that so it clicks. So now I can pull quite hard and it doesn't come out thanks to that locking mechanism. And on the other side, you plug this into your audio interface, and there will be a place on your audio interface that looks something like this. I have a little audio interface here. It has 2 microphone inputs, and these can actually accept microphone cables or 1/4-inch cables, which are these. So this is called a combo jack. In our situation, we're going to be plugging in an XLR, and then similarly has a lock, so it clicks in, and then if I pull on it, it doesn't come out until I press the little release tab in, and then I can pop it out like that. So that clips in, and then if I was also recording a keyboard or something like that, I could take the 1/4-inch cable and plug it into the center part of the combo jack.
Show us how that works. Yeah.
Boom. This one does not lock, so it just pulls right out.
Oh, I didn't realize. Is that one of like the drawbacks of a 1/4-inch versus an XLR?
It can be. You don't generally want to be putting your cables in a situation where they will get yanked on either way. But yeah, for microphones, it is pretty important that not happen, because if you have a delicate microphone in particular, having that connection removed suddenly can actually damage the microphone. But that's really only with certain kinds of microphones. There are locking 1/4-inch connectors, which I have here. This is a headphone extension cable, and with a headphone adapter in it, and it has a little tab that you pull down and then you can release. But these are not standard on audio interfaces because they're quite big and chunky. So these are more on cables actually. All right, so going back to the mic, we got the stand set up. We have our XLR cable plugged in to our interface. And the next step is going to be setting our gain. So
why do they call it gain, Sam?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I don't know if I really have a good answer for that.
Okay, sorry, not to put you on the spot. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Gain is how loud the signal. What is gain?
So gain is amplification of the microphone signal.
And the signal is like my voice.
Yeah,
in. Okay.
Yeah, so when I say signal, I'm referring to the sound that you're working with, and it could be in the air. So my voice in my room right now, I could be referring to my voice as it's traveling through the microphone and through my whole recording setup.
Okay. Or if you're a flute, the flute is the signal.
Right, exactly. Yeah, any sound that you're recording or working with primarily can be referred to as the signal. So yes, so gain is the amount of amplification that your audio interface is putting on that signal, because what comes out of the microphone is very weak. It's not really so good to record, so it has to get boosted before you can record it. And on some interfaces like Lucy's, there will be a physical knob where you set that, and often there's a light, and when it's green, that's in a good at a good setting. When it's red, it's at a bad setting, and you want to turn it down until it's in the green part.
Are you
Um,
going to show us what that looks like, or
yeah,
should I? You are? Okay, great.
I can. Well, I can show that on my software because some people might have software
Oh,
gain settings. Do you want to show yours?
yeah. Hold on,
Cool.
hold on, hold on.
And then I'll set my mic up so I can show it in my software, and I can show what that looks like on a meter as well,
Okay.
which we'll talk about too.
Hmm. Oh, where's your prayer? Yes, yes. Wait. Oh God.
Nice.
Aha.
I
Okay.
like your color coordination.
Thank you. Why is this so delayed? Can everyone see this now?
Yeah, I see it. It does look a little slow, but I do
It's
see it.
slow. I'm hanging out here. There we go. In front of my interface. And as I talk, you can see the green. And I'm just going to turn it down so that my voice gets softer and the green kind of goes away. And then the green comes back. And then I'm going to turn it up. Oh, sorry, we're clipping. And then it turns yellow. No, bad zone. And so I turn it down. Usually I leave it about here. I guess I will also just say, like, that's pretty hot for a microphone to have to turn it up to like 75, 80% of what it can go to. I mean, right, Sam? Am I
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's when we were talking. If you were in session one for the conversation about dynamic versus condenser microphones, dynamic microphones are going to need that knob to be turned up more, so they're going to need more gain than a condenser microphone will.
Mm.
Um, so I can show what that gain setting process looks like. Well, first I'll show you what my interface looks like. Um, let's see if mine works. Screen mirroring. So my interface has one knob that I could set the gain with, but it would take a lot of presses. But you can see here this big tab. That's what allows me to unplug the microphone when I want to. I'm going to leave it in for right now. So, and you can see that in channel one is the mic that I'm actually speaking into. So when I speak, the light's green, and when I stop, it's darker. And if I try to make it clip by tapping on it, you can
Mm.
see the red light turn on
Yeah.
like that. So I'm going to show you where I actually set the gain on my computer, which is in the software for my audio interface. So this is what that looks like. It looks kind of like a mixer, and it's pretty simple. I have a little wrench here, and then there's a setting called gain. So if you have also an interface that doesn't have a gain knob on the front, you'll have a gain setting in the software that comes with your interface. Um, so I have on channel 2 this other microphone, and I'll turn down the microphone that I'm currently speaking into and turn up the other one. So testing, check, 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 check. 1, 2, check. My name is Sam. I don't know if you can hear that, but
Here, it
hopefully you
sounds
can.
great.
Great. So yeah, so similar to Lucy, I have to turn this mic up quite a lot, and this is actually the same exact microphone as Lucy's, but without the protection grill on the front. You can see both of these mics that I have need a lot of gain, and that's because they're dynamic mics.
Mm.
I can actually show the process of setting up a condenser microphone so people see that. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. So this is a condenser microphone that I use for recording. It's quite small, but it requires phantom power, which we talked about also last week.
Mm.
So I'll plug this in here, and then I'm going to screen share and show you what that process looks like if you have a condenser microphone. So we're back in my software here. I'll turn this mic down. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do is turn on this button that says 48V,
Mm.
and you'll see the level kind of jump. That's the power coming into the microphone. And now I'm going to turn down my dynamic microphone, and I'll show you how much gain my condenser microphone needs. You can already see I'm actually getting some signal already, and the gain is at 0.
Mm.
So let's see how much gain. 24. That's a pretty good level. Check, 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 check. You see I'm never going up into the red zone. Sorry if that got
No,
so
it's
loud.
great. It's great.
Yeah, so I'm at 24, which is about half of what I had set for the previous microphone I was demonstrating with. And if I turn off phantom power, no more Sam.
Huh.
Maybe you can still hear me.
Mm.
But
What happens if you turn on phantom power when you don't need it? Like with the mic that I'm using, I have a 48V thing here. I could turn it on. What's that going to do to my microphone?
great question. If you have a dynamic mic, it won't do anything. The dynamic mic doesn't care whether or not it's getting phantom power. If you have a ribbon microphone, which I think I mentioned briefly.
If you have a ribbon microphone, just get out of here.
Yeah, if you have a ribbon microphone, you probably don't need to be here. But if you do have a ribbon microphone and you don't know how you ended up with it, don't turn on phantom power because it can break your microphone.
Okay, so that's the only situation.
That's the only situation where
Okay,
it's bad.
good
Yeah.
to know. All right, let's carry on.
So once you have your, oh, this is a good question about how to set up with a handheld Zoom.
Like in Reaper or in
The question is, if I think everybody should be able to see it in the chat, but just in case, the question is if we do have a handheld Zoom or a portable recorder, where should we put it and how far away should we be from it? How do we set gain on this? And where we're checking levels on gain in Zoom, is there a quicker way than transferring SD card to the computer and
Oh
send
yeah.
back? Yes, definitely.
Do you want me to just demo this? Because I have a Zoom here. You got one?
It would be great if you could. Yeah, I don't have
Yeah.
mine handy.
All right. So I'm gonna turn this bad boy on. Are you talking about also, Rachel, just so I know, plugging a mic in here or using this end?
I think
Using
the
that end.
built-in mics.
The XY? Okay, great. All right, so I'm gonna turn this on. My Zoom, Sam, by the way, can you help me with this? Is so slow saving and just like getting started sometimes. I don't know why.
I would say you might need to format your SD card in the Zoom, which is going to be an option in the menu somewhere.
Okay.
It'll delete all of your files that are on the SD card, but then it'll basically make it compatible with the Zoom.
Okay. All
so
right.
that might be the answer to that.
So important thing to know if you have this kind of a Zoom, that I have channel 1, channel 2, that's these guys down here. And then there's left, right here. And I can't turn just one on or one off. So they're on right now. And I do want to like point it at me, right, Sam? Like I don't want to record like this, but for the sake of this, where should I, if I'm recording like at my computer or something, how far away would I put this if I'm singing operatically?
That's a good question. I would probably honestly find a way of setting it on your desk about where it is. I would definitely want the two microphones to be pointing at you equally. I wouldn't want it more towards one side or the other.
Gotcha.
I would want it pointing pretty straight at you. But yeah, if you were to set it on your desk and kind of angle it up towards your face, that would be you would get a decent result with that, I think.
Rachel, I'll just tell you what I do, which is as I'll actually plug my headphones like this, and headphones come with different length cords sometimes. So this one I can still, I can still have pretty far away. Sorry, I just unplugged something stupidly.
It's hard to
um,
juggle all this stuff.
yeah, but I plug it in and then I sing if I can't see it on here. But also, this is where like a second person comes in handy because then they can check it for you. But I'm going to want the levels to come, like if I'm singing kind of loudly, Sam, right? Like not past -12, which is about 3/4 of the way up. So you can see the levels here, even though there's a ton of reflection. But
Can you push a button on the front maybe and it'll turn the light on the screen on?
oh, yes, I can.
Maybe.
Like a that.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So you
this
can see, yeah.
like that's as loud as I would want to be. I think I'm also cranked way up here with my lip.
Yeah.
So I want to turn it down so that I can sing loudly
Right.
without anything up. But that's kind of how you do it. It really does help to have another person in the room, like a professional audio engineer helping you. And actually that's one thing. I got an email from Lucy Shelton, who was at our last event, and she did want to say, you know, there are some things that you just can't do as a singer, and this is true. And sometimes you do just have to hire someone. So I guess these workshops are kind of about knowing where that line is yourself, and if you can make decent enough stuff yourself, we want to help you get to that point. But yes, at a certain point, you just need a professional. And so, Sam, we're not trying to replace you.
I'm not too worried.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with Lucy's Zoom, it's those knobs with numbers on them that will set the gain. And I think those go from 1 to 10
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yep. 0 to
Mine
10.
0 to 10. In the software I was showing, that's the numbers go from well, I can tell you right now, but they go from 0 to 65, which is a different way of measuring gain from 0 to 10. So that doesn't really matter, but yeah, it's the knobs that set the gain, and on Zoom it has also red lights that blink when it's too loud.
Mm-hmm.
And then going to what Lucy was also just saying, that we were talking yesterday about how I think sometimes audio engineering is presented as an all or nothing endeavor, by which I mean you record, you mix, you edit, you master, you do everything by yourself, which can be pretty overwhelming. And so you can divide those things up. Like you can use your skills from this workshop to record at home and get someone else to edit or mix or do things like that. Somebody asked, what is a Zoom? Is it just a kind of mic or does it have processing? A Zoom recorder like the one Lucy has is like she's holding it up there. It's a Zoom is a brand, and they make little portable recorders. And in Lucy's case, there are 2 microphones on the top. And then you can plug additional microphones in at the bottom. And I don't think it actually does any processing, but it can record. And then you would take those files and put them into your computer for processing.
You can either take the SD card out of the side here, or you can just with a USB. This is actually like a strange USB port. I forget what this one is called, but whenever I lose this cord and I have to go buy it again, it's a pain in the butt because it's
like
not
USB
USB-C.
mini.
Yeah, it's like mini, but it's not mini C or something. Anyway, Best Buy, sigh. But yeah, actually, I've done this before. I don't think this is when I was using Audacity, but actually Logic, my very earliest days of using Logic, I would plug the mics or something. I was like plugging my Zoom into my computer, and then my computer is asking, do you want to use Logic to control the Zoom, or do you want to use the Zoom to control the mics, even though you're recording in Logic? And I would select the Zoom. So I would hit start and stop on these buttons, even though it was all like recording through this into Logic somehow. I guess this is before I had an interface, because this can kind of work as an interface. So I don't know if that's answering your question, Beverly, but hopefully it is.
Yeah, a lot of the Zoom and some of the other portable recorders can also double as audio interfaces these days. And actually, some of them can even plug into your phone or iPad, which is also kind of cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why buying the Zoom is the best choice and not buying all the other equipment until you need to, until that becomes like a pain.
yeah, it definitely is a very good option if you're getting started. Somebody asked about a Fostex VF80EX digital multi-tracker. I don't know what that is personally, but I can imagine. I know Fostex is like Zoom. They make recorders. Um, I imagine that the Spire is probably more worth your time at this point. The things like digital multi-track recorders that were around like 10 to 20 years ago are, in terms of technology, pretty outdated at this point. It's probably easier to use Spire, which is another recorder, or a Zoom or something like that, and put your stuff in Reaper.
Speaking of Reaper, should we get started?
Yeah, just really quickly, Rachel said, can you plug your headphones into the Zoom and listen back? Yes, there is a microphone level knob and also a headphone level knob, so you can plug in any kind of
Or
wired headphones,
yeah,
Bluetooth.
in the case of mine.
Mm, yeah.
You can do Bluetooth on these?
No, I said not Bluetooth.
Oh, okay, okay. That would be convenient
um,
though.
yeah, that would be cool. Maybe someday. Cool. So you've got your mic set up. It's all plugged in. You've set your gain. Um, and now I think Lucy is going to share Reaper with us, and we're going to see what you do next.
Okay. So Sam, is it better, remind me, to just share my whole desktop or to only be sharing Reaper?
Um,
I can do my whole desktop for now.
yeah, if you're cool with that, that might be a little bit easier so that we can see the pop-up windows that might happen.
Great. All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Diving in. Da, 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 da. Okay, I don't know what this is. All right. Oh
That
no.
looks like the island from the new Star Wars movie.
Okay, so I'm going to open Reaper the way that I know how, which is to go to my search and type in Reaper. This
Nice.
is how I open all things. Okay, so this is an important little window over here. Reaper is not free. It is a paid software product. If you use it more than 60 days, you're required to purchase a license. I have been using it for 1 day for a total of 2.5 hours. So I'm going to click here, still evaluating, but I promise to the Reaper people I will buy a license. I'm going to click still evaluating. And here I am.
You can evaluate for as long as you want and or need, which
And
is
as
why
long
we
as you
recommend
believe it's
this.
ethical.
Yes, exactly. They will guilt trip you every time you open it, which is great, but you can keep clicking that button.
Yes.
Um,
Okay. So my goal here is, just so all of you know, I have a little excerpt from a piece called Since 1500 that is written for 4 voices, and I am just going to demo, I think, recording those 4 voices, or setting it up anyway. Sorry, I'm knocking stuff over. I don't know if anyone can hear that. Great. So yeah, so Sam, what the heck? This is just blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at this and my eyes are crossing and I'm angry about it. What do I do
yeah,
first?
yeah. So this is a completely empty um, Reaper session. Um, oh, yeah. So this is a completely empty Reaper session, and I'll use session just to describe the file that we're working with, basically. Um, so yeah, all that you have here is a master track in the bottom corner and a lot of empty space. So the first step is going to be to create a couple of tracks or create one track. And you can do that by going up to the track menu at the top and clicking insert new track.
I'm just looking at all the options. Insert
Mm-hmm.
track template, insert virtual instrument on new track, insert new track at end of track list. Okay, insert new track seems like the best option.
Yeah. If you don't
Okay.
know what it means, it probably isn't useful at that moment.
I do know
uh,
what they mean, but anyway, I just
yeah,
want to them. Okay.
I don't know what some of them mean.
Okay, and now how do I get my mic? So a track, by the way, how do we explain what tracks are, Sam?
Yeah, so a
And why do I have
track.
different ones?
Okay, great question. So a track, and Rachel asked for a general orientation of what we're seeing. Yes, so a track is um, a lane, I'll call it a lane, in which you can record one layer of audio. So you have one layer of audio per track. So in Lucy's case, if she's going to record, let's say, 4 layers of voice, she's going to need 4 tracks, and each track will have one of those voice layers. Um, in terms of a quick layout, now that we have a track, it's a little easier to tell you what's going on. So in the top half of the window, where this little box appeared on the left, that's kind of our track base for the top part.
This
And
little
once we
area here.
the light gray area
Yeah.
that appeared when you created a track. So if you could actually double click in that dark area between the record button
Oh,
and the white knob, between the red button and the white knob, if you double click there, you can name
oh.
your tracks.
Did you also see that I magically created a new track by just clicking here?
I did not see that, but
I clicked and it created a new track.
whoa, I'm learning so
I'm
much today.
clicking and I'm going to delete these now. Okay, so if I click here, I can name this.
Yeah.
Oh, double click. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm going to call this track 1.
Nice.
Great. Thanks.
And then once we start recording, the audio waveform will show up on the right, in the upper right portion of the window, and then in the middle there's a narrow strip, and we have some buttons here. We have the button to put the cursor to the beginning or the end of the project, the red record button, a play button, a loop button, stop and pause. And next to all those buttons is a clock which tells us where in the project the cursor is. And where the cursor is matters because that's where, if we press play, it'll play from there. If we press record, it'll record from that point. So the 2.3.00 are bars, beats, and then you can change the last part. I think it's in frames or something. And then on the other side of the slash, 0:03.000, that's hours, minutes, or minutes, seconds, and milliseconds.
So that's 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And then way over here, and this is annoying to me because this is very far, in my opinion, is the BPM
Mm-hmm.
and tapping tempo. Oh, can I do that with my mouse?
Mm-hmm.
Do, do, do. Oh, 88. Look at that. That's a fun game.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Anything I need to
So,
do here?
uh, nothing other than set your tempo and then your time signature. If you're if you're not recording to a click and you want to ignore the beat grid that's visible, this doesn't really matter. But if you do want to record to a click, you'll want to set your BPM and your time signature before you get started recording.
The beat
Um,
grid, by the way, are these little lines here. So right now it's in 4/4 time,
mhm.
which means that there are going to be 4 of these dashes per measure, right? So
Yeah.
1, measure 2. Just, and if you want to get off the beat grid, how do you do that, Sam?
You don't really have to do anything. I mean, you can hide it, but I usually just ignore it because
Uh,
it's faster.
how do we hide it?
Well, you can hide the lines that go all the way down by
Mhm.
clicking the. So, of the buttons in the upper left-hand corner,
Uh-huh.
these are a lot of important buttons. So, on the bottom row, there are some lines. The fifth
This
button
guy?
over. Yeah. So, if you
Grid
click
line
that,
field.
the lines go away.
Huh. It's subtle,
Um,
but it can be really annoying. So, good
yeah.
to know. Thank you.
And also, you can, if you click the magnet,
Uh-huh.
that will allow you to place the cursor anywhere rather than snapping it onto the beat grid,
Right.
which you
Which is
definitely,
also annoying, I think.
yeah,
Thing is,
yeah.
unless you like it.
It's helpful if you're doing beat oriented music, but if you're not, it's very annoying.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so you have your tracks here up at the top, and then underneath the middle portion of the window uh, is the mixer area where you'll have again one track per track that you make. Um, and that's where you can change things like volume. You have a little animated volume fader that you can slide up and down there. And you have some other settings like mute, another record button, and all of those things that are on the bottom part of the window there are going to correspond to the tracks above. Hopefully that makes sense. I just kind of went through that really quickly, but if you, Lucy, can you make a second track?
I can by double clicking in this space here I
Nice.
just learned.
Um, so if you click on, yeah, right now you can see track 2 is selected and it's lighter on the top, and you can see that that mimics the track selection on the bottom.
That they're both dark gray because it's selected.
Yeah,
And if I click,
exactly.
oh wait, no, 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 I'm selected with the lighter one. That's
Right, yeah, the
selected.
lighter one is selected, yeah.
Boop, 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 boop. Okay.
And so as you add tracks in the top part where the audio will appear when you're actually recording, those will go down from top to bottom. And in the bottom portion of the window, you can see Lucy's adding more tracks. They expand from left to right.
And also I can move, like there are these little magic lines that pop up if you mouse over them. Whee! And then I can move this up if I really want to see all this stuff, or I can move it down. And as you move it down, we learned it'll kind of hide features of the tracks. So
Mm-hmm.
um, that's just good to know that sometimes something needs to be expanded. And also with these, you can make these bigger. Is there a way, Sam, to select? Sometimes there's a way to select all of them and then change their size altogether, but I don't see.
Yeah, if you hold, at least if you're on a Mac computer
That's
and you hold Command and then just scroll up and down, that will make all of them smaller or larger.
what I'm doing.
And
Why?
that's really helpful if you have a small computer screen like you're on a laptop. You can move things around as you need to work with them.
Can I tell you all how large my computer screen is?
Small.
50 inches. I
50?
have a 50-inch monitor now because I am blind.
That's pretty
Um,
epic.
it's epic, and it's so much better if you are at all dyslexic or have any like like
Mm.
discombobulation issues, which I do. So anyway, is there a way to make these colored? Because that's also something that I like to do.
Yeah, you can do all kinds of things if you right click in the empty gray area there
Mhm.
and go down. You have track icon, track color, set
Oh,
tracks to random colors,
oh,
all kinds of options.
oh,
Set tracks to one random color. Yeah, it's super fun.
that's nice. Oh, and I always judge, I'm gonna say I judge a program based on its color choices. Find Ableton to be the trendiest.
Yeah,
Logic has no no style whatsoever.
nope.
Anyway, I think it's helpful for me, again, someone who thinks in colors and not text, uh, to have them colored for me.
It's definitely super helpful, and it can also, if you have four channels of voice, for example, and then two keyboards, you can color coordinate them that way.
Mm,
Plus, it makes your screen more fun to look at.
that's right. All
Um,
right. So now we have our tracks laid out. Now what do I
mhm.
need to do to record?
So the first thing you need to do is make sure that your microphone is going into the track.
Right.
Um, and there are several ways of doing that in Reaper, but I think the quickest one is to right click on the record enable button, which is also the most important button, which Lucy just clicked on.
It's this little red, yeah.
If you,
Record enable means that you can select which track you want to record into so that when you hit record, you're not just recording in all the tracks or, a random one. Anyway,
right,
important.
exactly. So then once you right click on that, you'll go down to the input :mono
Uh-huh.
and select whichever input on your audio interface you plugged your mic into. So it's probably input one. I
Yeah.
think in Lucy's case, it's input one.
Yep. What is
Um,
loop one, loop two? I didn't even have
so
ends, do I? I don't know.
you probably have two microphone inputs and two quarter-inch inputs. Um, I have that also on the front, and then I have four more inputs on the back. So this is the menu that pops up here, and your input is going to change based on your audio interface. Um, like mine has, I don't even know, 16 options here.
Well,
Because I have some digital inputs as well. But yeah, so you'll select the one that your mic is plugged into, and then you can confirm that it's the right one if you enable the record enable button.
by clicking it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And now we hear two Lucys through Zoom. And the more important part is that now if you look at this meter, which is the bar that's jumping around, you can see that we have input from the microphone.
Also, you can see that we can hear Sam.
Yes. No.
No.
Check. No, just you.
Okay. What's that? It's like kind of bobbling around at the bottom. I won't worry about it, but
Well, that's actually showing you that how much noise is getting into your microphone when you're not speaking or singing.
Mm. So this is pretty hot right now because it's getting just with normal talking, it's getting to -7, which is above my kind of like -12 aiming zone, right?
Yeah. So I would recommend turning your gain down a little bit. I mean, it's good for Zoom, but for recording, you would probably want it to be averaging around -12 to -18.
So should I be turning it down here? Is that volume or is that gain? Should I turn it
So,
this way? No.
yeah, that's a really good question. So, that's going to be the output volume of the track.
Okay. No.
So, it's different from gain.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have to turn the gain down on the knob on my interface.
Yeah.
Check, check, 1, 2, 1, 2, check, check. This is another one that audio engineers do. Hey, hey. Sorry.
We do that. We only know numbers 1 and 2, and our only greeting is hey hey.
All right. So now it's telling me that I'm getting at what? Does that look good to you? Does that look like a good level?
Yeah, that seems to be hitting around -18. Yeah,
Thank
it's a
you,
little small,
Deshaun.
but
Tells me I'm a natural audio engineer. Thank you. Hey, hey.
if you know hey hey and 1 2, then you're ready to go.
Yeah.
um, yeah, so that looks good. And I don't know if now's the time to talk about why the numbers are negative. I don't know if there's ever really a good time to talk about that, but
Let's save it for
yeah,
the special. Yeah, let's save it for later, but we can definitely come back to that question. If anyone's wondering, it's just decibels. And I remember something from like calc-based physics in my undergrad, but
yeah.
yes.
And actually, if you look at so directly above the meter is a little number that I think says -4.8.
Yeah. What is that?
That's going to show you your maximum, the loudest level that you've hit so far, which is
Oh.
really useful. And if you click on that, it'll reset to 0 until you speak again.
Hello. Great.
So
Cool.
there you go. Yeah. Now
Nice.
you're
I
at
didn't know
minus
that
12.
you clicked on it, it did it again.
Yeah.
And then these buttons, this will mute the track,
Mm-hmm.
and this will solo the track. Those are important if you're trying to listen back for specific things.
And solo means it mutes everything but that track.
Right. Yes. So it's like, don't do this one or only do this one.
Right. Yeah.
And then what's this thing down here? Phase normal? Oh, let's just not talk about it. I feel like I'm not supposed
Yeah,
to get.
don't worry about that.
Okay. I don't know what these
um,
things are either, but I don't really need to worry about them, I'm guessing.
not right now. Not
Okay.
for just recording. When we get into mixing, they might become more relevant.
Okay.
Um, I just want to mention quickly that at the bottom, in the bottom left corner, there's a big dark gray track called master. That's the master track for all the tracks in your session. So each of those 4 tracks that Lucy has are being fed into the master track, and that's what's coming out into your headphones or speakers. Or when you're finished recording and you export your song or whatever you've recorded, what you're exporting isn't the 4 individual tracks, it's the master track, which is all of them put together. So that's why it's bigger and has different meters, and yeah, looks important.
Yes. Okay, so I have my 4 tracks set up. I have my music ready. I'm warmed up, and I'm ready to go, right?
You are.
Okay. I'm going to go over here because I am going to do this with a click, which one does not have to do, but since I guess I feel like this is always a question in music is like, do you want it to sound kind of robotic and electronic, or do you want it to sound natural?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with robotic because I'm a modern
Nice.
lady. So I set my click to 72, and I'm gonna pull up also real quick since we are screen sharing. What this looks like. So y'all can see. Can everyone see this? This is on the screen
Yes.
share? Great. So these are what the 4 voices look like. This is kind of what I guess what my score looks like if anyone wants to see how I mark my scores. And so what the parts that I'm not recording right now are these pink things because they're kind of like the solo. So when I actually have recorded this piece, well, I do those solos actually live. So I just record the other 4 voices and then I do those little pink parts live. Anyway, and I've also learned just from my own recording that it's best for me to go from the bottom voice up, not start with the top voice. And that's just kind of like a tuning thing, but you could do whatever you wanted. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to be recording. It's this piece by Matthew Shickley, by the way, called Since 1500, and it's a long list of mammals that have gone extinct since the year 1500. And this section 2 is called Birds, and Ectopistes migratorius is the passenger pigeon. And then every once in a while you say a different bird name, Caracara lutosa, Polylaimus, something or other. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. It's a great piece. I love it. And so Sam, just so you know, I have recorded all of these voices already.
Nice.
But I also want to show what it looks like in Reaper. I did this in Logic because I know Logic. And then I recorded them louder too because I kind of want to get your opinion on what the right gain setting is. So anyway, so here we go. So I'm going to arm this bottom track and not arm. Oh, you can arm 2 tracks at once.
Yeah.
That's scary. All right. And I'm going to turn on my metronome and here I get my starting pitch. I don't know if y'all have watched my 4-score tutorial video, but if you want to hear about how to use 4-score with this, I can tell you. Okay, So I'm just gonna do like one voice, Sam, and then maybe we'll just drop in the other ones or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Do you want to spotlight yourself?
Oh, sure. Do, 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 do. Where is me? Here is me. Spotlight video.
Nice.
Yeah. Right. Hello, everyone. Okay, so I don't know how to do a count-in on this. Does that matter?
You can just leave the first measure empty.
Okay.
Yeah, that's usually what I do. You might want to put the cursor back to the beginning.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to leave one measure blank and then I'll start recording. I hope I get it right. Here we go.
One more thing, Lucy.
Oh, no. Yes.
So you can just undo.
I can undo. Control Command Z.
Yeah.
No,
or
I can't.
Not.
I'm just gonna.
You can just delete that. Yeah.
Okay.
Turn on the metronome button.
Thank you. Oh, that's up here
Up in the corner. Yeah.
Metronome.
Nice.
Can I hit play? Yeah, and then you can hear it. Can y'all hear my audio? Oh
yeah, we hear it.
Fantastic. All right, because you're already hearing me in the mic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. Pitch. Okay, here we go. Ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, gratorius, ectopistes migratorius. Done.
Nice.
Nailed it.
You're a one-take wonder.
Should we listen?
Can you turn off the record enable button?
Yes.
Awesome. And then if you want to scroll out to see everything you've just recorded, you would just put the mouse anywhere in the upper right area and scroll down. Or up. Up zooms in. Gotcha. I think up zooms in, down zooms out. Yeah.
On mine, it's the opposite. Up.
Oh, I think I have my scrolling the other way around on my computer, but.
All right, here we go. Cool. I'm gonna hit spacebar. Spacebar plays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here we go. Ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, gratorius, ectopistes migratorius.
Nice.
No, stop. Yes. Okay. Give me feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I think technically speaking, this is a really solid take. Technically, in terms of audio, your level is healthy but not clipping. On Zoom, I couldn't hear any noise, but that's not really a good reference. But basically, the level is good and the tone is good. So I think this is a very solid starting place.
Okay.
And yeah, do you want to add in the other layers?
Let's do it.
Or like, I mean, from the stuff you already recorded?
Right. How about, actually, I'll record one more just so I can show people. I mean, this is how I record when I'm doing multi-track stuff. I actually listen to the other track as I go, usually. I mean, especially if I'm trying to like tune with another voice. So maybe actually let's try that. I'll just record one more just so we can see what that's like, and then we'll go in. Okay. Enable the track. Make sure we're at the beginning. And here we go. Anything else, Sam? Sorry. Are we good?
You're good.
Okay. Here we go. Ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius. Okay.
Nice.
And then I would say let's listen. Yeah?
Yeah.
Ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius.
Nice.
Cool. Keys are
If you,
popping. Sorry.
that's okay. If you don't mind disarming the or
Right.
unenabling, yeah,
Sorry.
great, thanks. It's just then when that's on, I hear two of you.
I'm sorry.
That's
Okay.
okay. Um, cool. Yeah. So you have some popping peas a little bit. But otherwise, I think it's sounding good. Like the levels are pretty comparable, which is probably desirable in this for this piece. Um, so do you want to add the other tracks in?
Yes.
So this is good to demonstrate the process of if you did record something on a portable recorder and you want to edit it and mix it in Reaper, this is the process you would go through. So you'll put the SD card into a card reader, or you'll plug in with a USB cable and then open up the Finder or find your files, and then you'll just simply drag them into Reaper. And when you let go, Reaper will import them into the session.
Whoops. Okay. Oh, so I think I'm just going to erase these other two that I did just so we can all be at the same level. Is that cool?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
So bye and goodbye. And then I'm going to drag this one all the way to the beginning.
And then you can select all of them and drag them in.
I can?
Yeah, and it'll ask you, do you want to add them on one track or different tracks?
Okay. Insert multiple media items on separate tracks or sequentially on a single track. Separate tracks?
Separate tracks, yep. And then you'll just want to make sure that they're all lined up all the way at the beginning.
No. Okay.
Nice.
Shall we listen?
Yes.
Here we go.
If you
Thank
press
you.
W on the keyboard, that'll put the cursor back to the beginning.
What? What does W mean?
I don't know.
Beginning.
Yeah.
Ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. I'm kind of curious. I have this other one that I recorded that's way louder. Could I slap those in real quick?
Yeah, you can put them in after if you want to compare.
Oh, smart. So I just select them all, go up here, and I'm going to drop them over here. Separate tracks. Boom.
Nice.
Let's listen. Can we listen to this? Just because I have a question about gain.
Yeah.
Here we go. Ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius, ectopistes migratorius. Okay.
Did that answer your question?
It's louder. No,
Yeah.
one? I mean, I feel like an idiot. Which one is better?
So, okay. So when you have if you have one vocal track, then the second level would probably be fine. But when you have four layered on top of each other, and they're all pretty loud, so you can see none of the individual tracks clipped, right? They all say minus, like track 1 says minus 4.4 on the maximum level meter. Track 2, 3.8, minus 4.5, minus 5.4. Those are all fine on their own, but you can see when they're all put together and they're not mixed, the master is clipping, and that's why that red light is on, and it says plus 2.4.
I didn't even know that, Sam. Okay, that was helpful.
Nice.
So when I play all these together, I'm just kind of curious to look at the master. Okay.
So if you click on that red light on the master track,
it'll
then it'll show us what that maximum level is. Cool. So it's not actually a huge deal that your second track was clipping, the second version, because in that case, what you can do is select track one by just clicking on it, and then hold shift and select track 4, so they're all highlighted.
Gotcha.
And then go down in the mixer area, pull down the volume fader until it's like minus 4, minus 5. And now if you play the second one again, it should be fine.
Okay, so here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is my big question.
The big one.
So this piece has different sections, and this section is quieter, and then there are these louder parts that happen, but then like it's in 4 sections, the whole piece, right? So this is section 2, as we saw, 2 birds. But there are some sections where like the whole thing is just loud. Is it better to record a whole piece in one gain setting, and just be pulling off the mic and on the mic for things? Or if I'm in a loud section, should I turn the gain down and then still record at the same mic distance?
That's a really great question. In general, you don't want to. So it's called mixing with gain, which basically means you're changing the gain level in response to the music, which is generally not what you want to be doing. I would say set your gain for the loudest part, and then at the loudest part, as long as you're not clipping on your audio interface, it's okay. If it's clipping like we were before we pulled those faders down, we can automate those fader positions. So it could be fine for the quieter part, and then when you get to the loud part, you can make the program turn down the fader so it doesn't clip, but you'll still hear it as louder because the source is louder. And vice versa, if you need to make a soft part loud, you can do that as well.
Yeah. So am I adding compression to the track before I record it? Is that basically what you're saying?
No. So that's a really good question, though, also because compression will change the sound of what you've recorded by changing the volume level, which is what you're doing when you move the faders or automate the faders. You're not actually changing the sound, you're just making it lower in volume. So when you make it lower in volume with a fader, you're turning down the loud parts as well as the soft parts. When you add compression, you're turning down the loud parts and keeping the soft parts where they are so that you can make everything louder. So they're actually different processes, and between the two, for classical music in particular, changing the volume is going to be preferable to adding compression.
Why?
Because when you change the volume level, you aren't changing the actual sound of the voice or the performance. When you add compression, that process of compressing the loud parts and increasing the volume of the soft parts changes the tone of the sound of the voice or whatever you're compressing. It can make it brighter or do other things.
Mm.
And that is sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not what you want.
Mm.
It really is a question of taste, but usually, um, well, volume automation is not going to impart, it's not going to do anything to the tone. It's just going to make it louder or softer. Compression will do both.
Um, I feel like automation is a term that I didn't always understand, and I'm sorry that there are a bunch of sirens going down my street right now. But can you just explain that term again, automation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I can actually show you how to do it. Um, so let's go back, put the cursor back at the beginning
Sure.
of the session,
My
and
person
then
word
if you just, yeah, that's good. And then double click on the faders, on one of the faders.
here.
Double click on the icon of the fader.
Oh, on the icon of the fader.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh,
and that resets them all to 0.
oh, okay.
And now if you just click underneath the tracks so none of them are selected,
Uh huh.
and then click on one, whichever one you want.
Uh huh.
And now press V on your keyboard.
Okay. Oh.
And if you scroll down a little bit, um, yeah.
Oh.
So now this line, this green line, is actually showing you the position of the volume. So if you grab that line and drag it up and down, it's going to change the position of the fader if you when you press play. Oh, actually, it
Yes.
already did it. I think.
I
Did it
I
do it?
changed it. I changed it a little bit.
Yeah.
So that white line is just telling us where like 0 is essentially. And now I'm
Um,
plus 8 dB.
no, I think the white line is telling you where plus 15 is, which is not important why it's that number.
Huh.
But you can always reset that, or if you delete I don't know if you scroll all the way back to the beginning, there,
Yeah,
I can't really see it in Zoom, but I think there's a small point on
there
that
is.
line.
There is.
Yes. So if you delete that,
Ah,
it resets it.
gotcha. And you can delete it by double clicking on it.
Yeah.
Yes. Which I
Um, Now we have this line and we've introduced the concept of points on the line. So if you press and hold command on your keyboard and click on the green line,
uh-huh.
you can add more points.
I can
You
draw
can
that.
draw.
Shoo. Okay.
And now if you press play,
I'm gonna solo this one voice. I hope that was
so
demonstratory of story of the thing. That's a little silly. I'm sorry. All right,
it's okay.
hold on.
No, that was great. So it doesn't actually move the graphic of the fader, but it's doing the same thing.
Hmm.
In some programs like in Logic and Ableton, it actually moves the graphic too. But
So that's
um,
very fussy though for me to go in and be doing that. Is that what you do as an audio engineer?
yeah,
Whoa, that's time consuming. Okay.
yeah. I mean, so I don't usually like I'll do that for a section of a piece or for a phrase if it's particularly loud.
Uh,
Um, like I was actually just working on something earlier today, and I if I were to show you the um, automation of the volume on the vocal track, it's like every couple seconds there's a change.
wow.
And I went really in on this particular recording, but it was probably, I mean, it's not necessary to do that. And also, if you have a little MIDI fader controller thing, you
Uh-huh.
can set it up so that you can make those changes physically
Oh,
as you listen,
oh, that's nice.
um, and not have to draw it in with the mouse, which I find really not fun to do. So I actually use Uh, in Logic, I use the Logic app on my iPad
Oh,
um, to answer Deshaun's question, but there are a lot of controllers out there. A good affordable one is from Korg. I think it's called the Studio or something like that. Korg. If you search Korg KORG fader controller, you'll come up with it. It'll show up, and then you can set that up to work with Reaper or any software you're using to make those changes as you listen and respond. And it's much more musical than clicking around with your mouse all day long.
yeah. Wait, so that's a digital. It's like a another program that you would have open while you're playing in Reaper.
That's actually a piece of
Ah,
equipment that
okay,
you plug in with USB.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Also possible question. Sorry,
Hmm.
and making an assumption, but like I have this uh MPK Mini. Can I
Hmm.
set one of these knobs to be a fader?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I know how to do
Yeah.
that in Ableton, but not in Reaper, and we don't have to go into that right now. I'm just saying that it's an option that might be a more advanced class.
Yeah, but no, it's a good point. If you have any kind of MIDI controller with a knob or a fader on it, you can map that to control volume or actually pretty much anything in Reaper or any other software that you're using.
Cool.
Um, so if you, let's say you didn't want to change, have a volume curve for every note, whoops, um, but you wanted to make the second section softer. So if you would scroll over to the beginning of that section,
Okay, here this is the beginning.
the beginning of the second louder take.
Ah, okay. Zooming out.
Yeah, that's fine actually. So if you make 2 points in the empty space between the clips,
Yeah.
so command click
Okay. Ah, okay. Command click.
one, yep, and then release the command key and just drag that second one down. Yeah. So now you have the first part is at the original volume and the second part is lower. And that's going to change that for track four for that basically until you make another change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's more the kind of automation that I do on a larger scale to just balance things. And then I do more fine adjustments if one word really sticks out or I add some compression, stuff like that. But the first step of mixing for me is always setting general balance with the volume faders.
Mm-hmm. Um, I'm wondering for our attendees, what would be most helpful right now? We can take questions, or I have a like a pre-recorded guitar thing, and could show you. We could work with like a pre-recorded other instrument kind of situation, and talk about pitfalls of like
Hmm.
recording on top of these tracks that you have to kind of pass back and forth, which I know a lot of us are doing. Just wondering if anyone has any questions right now that they would like to. Also, we can enable our attendees to talk. If you would like to talk and not ask your question in a long written way. I will also say if your question is like more about niche advanced things, maybe type that one in, just so we're not getting to, because this is like a pretty beginner
Yeah.
thing. Um, and Sam, I will also ask you if you think there's something something else we should do. I mean, we should talk about editing. No?
Yeah, and one other thing quickly that I was going to bring up is panning.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Um,
How do I get this
for
window to go away? By the way,
the
this.
volume,
Yeah.
just press V again. You might have to select that track
Uh,
and then press V.
okay.
Yep,
So if I select this track and I do it gives me its own
there you
thing.
go. Um, so panning is the process of making one sound louder or softer in your left ear or your right ear if you're wearing headphones or speakers, left and right speakers. And you accomplish this by turning the white or light gray knob. Yes, that one. So it says pan center, and then it has percentages left and right.
Yes.
And this is a great way, especially if you're working with multiple voices, to spread things out, make it sound wider and nicer than having four voices smack in the middle. Uh, However, I don't think that we in Zoom will be able to hear it because
Mm.
Zoom is mono,
Uh-huh.
but it'll sound great for Lucy.
Cool.
And one thing to kind of experiment with is if you pan things too much to the left or too much to the right, um, it'll start sounding lopsided. So you always kind of want to check it with your own ears and balance that for yourself. But panning is also an important part of recording.
So if you had four voices, what would you recommend?
I
Pan?
would I would try to keep the if there are voices that are more or less prominent,
Mm-hmm.
I would keep the most prominent voice in the middle, and I would also keep the lowest voice close to the middle or in the middle. And then I would put the secondary voices left and right. If I had four, that would work out well. Theoretically, if you have a high, mid, low, I would
Mm-hmm.
put the high and the low, keep them in the center,
Mm.
and put one secondary voice on the left and one on the right. Not
Or left,
a
half left.
100%,
Okay.
but maybe 20%.
I'm gonna try that.
Let
Um,
us know how it sounds.
yeah. Let's see if can anyone hear this? And also just for anyone who's changing these knobs, I'm just clicking and moving up and down.
Hmm.
They don't actually move like you're not like pulling it around in a circle. You're just moving up and down to move it left.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if anyone can hear what this sounds like. If I can even hear what it sounds like. Pistes migratorius, 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 migratorius. You hear a difference?
It's pretty much mono. I
Okay.
think it's actually mono for us, but I could see in the master meters
Uh-huh.
when everything is in mono, the two meters are always going to be perfectly in sync with each other.
Mm.
When things are starting to get panned, then they will not always be in sync. They'll be close, but not perfectly in sync. And I was able to see that in the master. So that's also another way of confirming
Hold up.
whether or not you're panning.
I wasn't even oh, I see. There's like two sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ah, first time
And
I ever noticed that.
and one is for left and one is for right.
Cool.
There's
Okay,
somebody said, if is it even possible to talk about compression for absolute non-Sam minds?
let's do it.
Thank
I
you.
will-
What did you say, Lucy?
Let's talk about compression.
All right,
What
so
happens if I just turn on compression on the master, or what if I turn it on individually versus turning it on the master?
okay, yeah. So with any compression is an effect that you would add after you're done recording, or you could add it while you're recording. But in general, you'll add it after you've finished your recording and you're in the mixing stage. Um, so if you add any effect on tracks one, two, three, or four, uh, that effect is only going to affect that track. So if you put it on track one, then you'll have compression on track one and no compression on tracks two through four. If you put it on the master, you'll have compression on the sum of those tracks. Or if you put reverb on the master, you'll have reverb on the sum of those tracks. So that's the difference between adding effects on a per track or a master
Also,
basis.
FX means effects. This is where
Yes.
all of the things are, meaning all of your reverb, all of your delay, all of your blah 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 blah. They're
Yeah,
all
and you should be able to make that bigger.
yeah. I was like, this is annoying. Why can't I see?
I think
You just pull it.
So
I
yeah,
can't.
there we go.
Okay.
Nice. So you have all these different categories here: VST, VSTI, AU, and AUI. These are all just basically software formats, and then um, Kakos is the manufacturer of Reaper, and they have built-in um, plugins. So, and then you have categories for type of effect like delay, dynamics, and compression is a dynamic effect. EQ, which is super important, and then all kinds of other stuff. So, if we want to talk a bit about compression, which is if there were two or three effects that I would talk about, it would be compression, EQ, and reverb. So
Let's talk about
compression,
compression first.
yeah. So compression is like I was saying before, it's the process of turning down the highest peak volume levels in your recording. And the goal of that is, in general, to make the overall volume of a recording louder. So there's a really good video that demonstrates this really well. Um, it's actually about something else, but it demonstrates compression really well, and I will link that on this page that I made as soon as we're done, which has a lot of resources also, by the way. I meant to share this earlier, but it has some videos and resources and things for you. Um, so I'll put that there. But so basically, compression is making the loudest parts of a recording softer. Which, let's say this is. Can I hope everybody can see me,
Do you
but
want me
if
to
you
stop sharing my screen?
for a moment, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you've just recorded a beautiful performance with wonderful dynamic range. So your softs were really soft and your louds were really loud. So your softs are here and your louds were here. And you put a compressor on your recording, that's going to take the louds and make them here. So they're closer to the softs and you have less range of dynamics. What you can then do is make everything louder, which is good for certain things like streaming services want to be loud. YouTube wants to be loud. So it makes your softs louder without putting the loud part over the top and making it peak. Does that make any sense?
That made a lot of sense, actually. I've
Okay.
had compression explained a lot, and that was helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And then if we take it one step further, like if you look at a compressor, sometimes there are things called one knob compressors, which you turn the knob and it changes how much it's compressing. Um, those are very easy to use, and if you crank it, you'll hear what it sounds like right away. Um, if you get a little bit deeper into compression, then if I go back to the louds and softs thing, there's a setting, probably the most important setting for compression is called the threshold. And that's a third level here. And what that is going to determine is how much of the signal above that threshold is going to get compressed, is going to get squashed. So let's say my softest sound is 10 and my loudest sound is 100. I'm just talking in 1 to 100, not decibels. So my softest is a 10, my loudest is 100, and my threshold is 98. It's going to compress those last two volume units, SAM volume units, but that's going to be quite minimal, and you're only going to get a tiny little bit of boost of overall volume. If your range is from 10 to 100 and your threshold is 50, that's going to really squash the loud parts, which will give a very clear kind of compressed sound, but it will allow you to boost everything a lot. So you'll get a lot of the softs can be much louder. Um, so that's the threshold, is the point at which the compressor kicks in, basically. Um, and then you get into some other parameters that are not as important, I think, for us to talk about.
That's super helpful. I think that was Thank you.
Good. Yeah, it took me a long time to understand it in that way as well because once you start looking at the other parameters, it can start getting really confusing. But
Huh.
those are the big things to remember. And like with all of this stuff, I encourage you all to experiment. So put a compressor on your vocal track and put the threshold super low and play around with all the knobs and see what different levels of compression sound like. Um, and I think you'll start noticing it pretty quickly. Like if you're ever watching a TV live news and they're out in a hurricane or something, and it sounds like they're talking really loudly, and then when they stop talking, you can hear every other sound, and then when they start talking, there's this like whoosh effect. That's super, super, super heavily compressed
Hmm.
audio. So
Cool.
that's compression. The other one that I wanted to talk about is EQ,
We have
which is
also 5 minutes. I'm just
5 more minutes. Are there any more questions before I talk about EQ?
we might need to
Maybe we
continue
can.
next week. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
also want to ask anyone who's here what you would like more of, or what you want to hear more about, or if we should, because we haven't talked about editing at all in Reaper. We haven't talked about, yeah, EQ. We could talk about reverb. Um, we could talk about so much. We could talk about recording with a MIDI or with another instrument. Or the other thing we could do is have a little master class next week where you are on camera with your setup, and we can talk you through different, your space or your gear or a thing that you're doing. You can screen share. We can kind of set that up. So if you would like to do that, please let us know. You can email info@resonantbodies.org. You can hit us on Instagram @resonantbodies. Um,
Cool. We got one request for how to fix the most common mistakes post recording.
wait.
That's definitely good to talk about. EQ is a big part of that, actually.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Um, um,
Cool.
yeah. Yeah. So we could just go into kind of like editing, Sam. Maybe that would be something that you could just take
Take
something,
the reins.
take the reins, and just kind of show us how you're going to be clicking around. And
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I think if we talk about editing, we'll talk about EQ, reverb, and fixing mistakes, and maybe fixing other kinds of problems that come up in the recording process. Um, I think that would be a pretty comprehensive look at recording for singers.
cool. Um, 3 minutes left. I'm kind of wanting to pull up the compression in Reaper.
Hmm.
There's VST recomp, and then there's VST re-x comp for my options.
I think the one you want is recomp.
Recomp. Add. Oh boy.
Whoa.
Yeah. So this is my compression window.
Yep.
Oh,
This is what you get to look at.
great.
But if you ignore pre-comp, attack, release, auto release, classic attack, ignore everything but this big fader on the left, threshold.
This guy? Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then the other one to move, since it's at one, it's the default is one, is ratio.
Where is it?
Um, right under auto release.
Ah, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So threshold, like I was saying, threshold is where the compressor starts to kick in.
Yeah.
The ratio is how aggressive it's going to do that compression. So if it's 1 to 1, it's actually not doing any compression. If
Oh.
it's 2 to 1, it's going to compress by half.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're 4 decibels over the threshold, it's going to reduce it by
Okay.
by
Gotcha.
2 decibels. And so the higher the ratio, the more aggressive the compressor is going to get. When you get to infinite to 1, that's going to basically brick wall. It's called a brick wall. So the level will get up to the threshold and it will not go above, which is actually called limiting,
Huh.
um, which because it's literally limiting the signal.
Okay. So what would you suggest for something that sounds human-ish?
I would suggest, well, the threshold will depend on the level of your recording, um, and then the ratio for a recording. I don't know, 6 to 7 is usually fine. But
Okay.
again, it's going to depend on the style of the piece, the your voice itself, and the level that you record it at.
Can we hear it? If I just play it back, will we hear the compression maybe? At what I said it? Just
Try it. Yeah, it might be hard for us to hear through Zoom, but
okay, let's try.
try it.
I didn't hear any change and I moved the knobs around.
So,
Oh,
one thing that you did maybe instinctively in the last couple seconds
yeah.
was move the threshold down closer to the green bars,
Yeah.
which was good. Um, the threshold isn't going to do anything until it starts getting to where those green bars are. And then on the right, the dark meter that was coming down from the top,
Yeah.
that's showing you how much compression it's doing.
Am I? Oh, I'm only selecting one track. That's why it sounds so funny.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only compressing one track.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, so yeah, I recommend just play around with all of these things. And if you get lost, you can always remove it and add it again, add the plugin, and it'll reset. Or you can double click on the slider and it'll reset.
Did I like unclick there to make it not select it?
If you click the remove button at the bottom,
Remove button. Um, oh, remove.
yeah, and then just add the compression again,
Gotcha.
um, that'll, load a new version.
Gotcha. Okay. Friends, this was our second one. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sam, for your help.
You're welcome. My pleasure. And here I'll share the page again just with the outlines and video from last time. And I'll update this also as we go from today and into session 3 with the resources that we've been sharing.
Cool. Thank you all so
Cool.
much. And we will see you next week, same time, same place. Let us know if you have any questions, and we will continue with kind of Reaper and getting more into the splice and dice editing. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lucy.
Thank you, Sam. Bye, everybody.
Bye.